Live from New York, it's Ask This Engineer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Ask Engineer, the most fun you're going to have Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's me, LADYADA, the engineer. With me is Mr. LADYADA. We are broadcasting live from downtown Manhattan, the home of Adafruit, where we make and manufacture and tutorialize and photograph and video all of your favorite electronic parts and tutorials and more. And we do that jam-packed show, 1 hour of all the electronic maker, hacker, creator news you can possibly handle. I can't wait to get into it. We got so much going on, kicking off this March strong. Let's get this show on the road. Mr. LADYADA, what is on tonight's show?
On tonight's show, we are still opening safe. We're still wearing masks and more. We'll talk about our open safely plans and more and all the things that are going on. But we are shipping your orders. Our team, entire team thanks you. So thanks for keeping us in biz. Coming up on a year of this. So we'll talk about that.
Nice.
Show and tell, people around the world showing and sharing their projects. Later will talk about who's on the show and tell and what they shared. Time travel, look around, world makers, hackers, artists, engineers. This week we have jobs on job on the jobs board, jobs.adafruit.com. We have some Python on hardware news, have some Made in New York City factory footage and more. 3D printing speed up. We have DigiKey and Adafruit present Ion MPI. This week is going to be from ProAnt. New products. Got some top secret. Can answer your questions. We do that over on Discord, adafruit.it/Discord. Join all 27,000 of us now.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
All that and more on You Guessed It, Ask an Engineer.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Well,
It's you and me. We're doing the show.
Yeah. First up, like I said, we're still open. We're still shipping. Looks like we're through a big chunk of what this pandemic is going to be. It's like most people are agreeing.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, there'll be some stops and starts. There'll be some ups and downs, some bumps in the road. Different states do different things. But even in New York now, the emphasis is on getting vaccinated. And then I'd say like figuring out what's open, how many, and what things are coming next. So it seems like the page is getting turned on those things. So thanks for keeping us safe, everyone at Adafruit who works there. We have some good protocols. We managed to keep our team safe as best we could over the last year. And then also all the orders that we've been shipping out.
Yes, we've been able to do it.
Yeah. So we'll see how the next few months go. Last year in March we were shut down. All businesses were shut down in New York.
And we were manufacturing essential goods for ventilators, for PPE. I mean, it was...
Yeah.
It was not boring. That's for sure.
And we also didn't have a lot of information at the time.
Yeah.
So we think that, we'll probably all start to see, we could even tell from our sales, like more schools are reopening, more schools are buying electronics. Our numbers are good compared to last year, because last year there was a lot of things that started, like in February, basically.
So to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, started to. There was like weird supply issues. There was a lot of stuff that was happening. It was like clearly there was something going on. That's when we made our preparations to figure out how we were going to get through, which could potentially be the next year or so. So anyhow, so that's what's going on right now. And stuff that we do when you place an order to reward y'all out there. The easy one is just anything that's over $1 in the U.S. We have our 100 days of masking up.
Mm-hmm.
We are, let's see.
Halfway through, yeah?
Yeah, just about. And it's one of the things we want to do. So we toss in a mask. And, save it, give it to a friend, wear it yourself, and those go in each order.
That's right.
Also,
we also have other freebies. So $99 or more, you get a free Proto half-size breadboard, perfect for taking your solderless breadboard projects and making them permanent. At $149 or more, over there, you get a free STEM QT board. We have an assortment of about 25 different boards we'll pick from to send you. If you make an account, you'll get a different STEM QT board every time. We got sensors, accelerometers, and breakouts, and controllers, and GPIO expanders, and all that good stuff. $199 or more, you get free UPS ground shipping in the continental of the United States. So it's high quality, trackable shipping. Perfect for when you want to make sure you get your thing. We're still seeing some delays with USPS, postal. So if you do use that, just be aware it's got more delays than UPS, which is getting back on track. And then $299 or more, you get a free Circuit Playground Express, our all-in-one development board that's got LEDs and buttons and sensors and capacitive touchpads. It's a great way to program in Arduino, Circuit Python, Code.org, CS Discovery, Rust, what have you. Pretty much everything is supported, and there's no soldering required. You can just jump right in and start making. So it's perfect for beginners.
Okay. Next up, we have show and tell. Show and tell we do every single week. LADYADA, who was on the show and tell this week, and what they share?
I'm glad you asked. We had a lot of people come by, which is cool. A lot of people from the community, a lot of people from Adafruit. Kicked it off with Kevin from DigiKey. He just got his Pico RP2040, put CircuitPython on it, and got some NeoPixels glowing. So he said it was the easiest CircuitPython / microcontroller project he's worked on, and he's excited to see how good a combo of Raspberry Pi hardware and Adafruit firmware is together. That's my favorites, like peanut butter and jelly, raspberry jam and peanut butter, whatever. You got it. We also had from the Adafruit team, Erin. She published a shadow box guide today. This is cool. It's like a scenery shadow box that knows what time it is, and it displays like the sunrise and sunset. And during the day, it's light, and at night, it's got like sparkly stars sort of effect, using a mag tag and some NeoPixels. JP did an epic guide. If you've ever wanted to make your own keyboard and you were scared, like how do you do it? Do you have to learn EagleCAD or KiCad? No, you can do it in fritzing with a Pico and Cherry MX switches. He shows you how to make any kind of custom keyboard you want, up to I think like 26 keys. So you got a lot of options there for pretty big keyboards without having to do any matrixing or multiplexing or diodes or anything. So check it out. Great for making little macro keypads. You can get PCBs now for like $5-10 a piece. It's awesome. So take advantage of that. Check out Fritzing for a very easy way to make your very first PCB. And then come show and tell and bring it by. Show it off. Jepler also published a beginner guide to PIO, which is the RP2040 like state machine system. We have an assembler in CircuitPython, so you can really easily get started with learning PIO without having to build your tool chain up or compiling things. You can do it all in CircuitPython for that instant feedback loop. It takes you from turning on an LED to blinking an LED to writing NeoPixel data out. So it's a beginner guide, and then you can look at the Raspberry Pi PIO tutorials and books that they've written and PDFs to learn more about PIO. And then before you know it, you're bit banging HDMI. Melissa came by with a micro Kinback. This is a computer from the 70s that you would program by pushing buttons and like looking at the LEDs. So this is a remix. She's done a video on her YouTube. Check it out. Noah and Pedro previewed next week's 3D Hangouts project. It's the MIDI Fighter collab with Noah, Pedro, and Liz. So it's got that music, it's got that 3D printing, it's got a Pico, it's got LED buttons. It's a really fun build. It's got like a cool handle. I think it'll be a fun project for DJs or just people who want to just press arcade buttons and make music go. It's also got a cool OLED display built into it. So there's a preview. Guide is coming next week. Scott has been working also on some back-end stuff for the RP2040 and CircuitPython, defining every single SPI non-volatile memory chip, MRAM or FRAM or QSPI flash, and defining the little differences between them so that we can make sure that we can support any chip in a CircuitPython, especially for the RP2040, which has a very particular way of configuring chips. For those of you who are like working with execute in place code and you're like, that's right, every chip is a little bit different and it's really annoying, check out this project. You might find it handy. We're hoping that it gets included in a lot of different people's projects as a database of all the different chips available and their configuration differences. Lucian made a Dynamixel feather wing. If you have Dynamixel motors, if you've got feathers and you want to combine them, check it out. I just finished and published his Dynamixel feather wing, so it'll be cool. Chris Young is always working on cool accessibility technology projects. This time taking the configuration files that we used in Arcada, pulled out all that stuff, the mass storage for Arduino, the JSON stuff for Arduino, and made it so that Arduino projects could be configured with by plugging them into a computer, shows up as a disk drive, and then changing the JSON file on the fly. They also worked on with Bill a Cutie Pie hat for Raspberry Pi that turns it into a little GPIO expander and remote. Micah made a MIDI controller, learning how to DJ, and has an old DJ controller but wants like more buttons and stuff. So using a Raspberry Pi Pico, made a fully featured MIDI controller with the potentiometers and buttons and all that good stuff. So I love all these HID and MIDI projects. Ine had a soft robotics project. It was cool. It was like this inflating silicone blob. Looked like a live. It had like LEDs behind it. It was for an installation. Hopefully we'll get some video of this project because it was cool. Also using a Raspberry Pi Pico. Love all these projects. People are taking like low cost microcontrollers and building with, and they used PIO as well. And then Mark came by and showed off their very first DIY PCB for a temperature sensor.
Okay, it's part of our Adafruit
Love
Live
people.
series of shows. If you're watching this right now, it's Wednesday, 8 p.m. Ask an Engineer.
That's right.
We just did Show and Tell, 7:30, but these are shows on Wednesdays. Desk of LADYADA was on Sunday. LADYADA, you showed off a bunch of stuff. I think the biggest chunk of the segment was about this module.
Yeah, we got some samples of, I think, the BG95 and EG95 Quectel cellular modules. We also showed off, oh my goodness, what did we show? I think we showed off the ESP32S2 QT, Cutie Pie design that I made. And what else did I show?
There's a few other things.
I think we showed off the
Maybe the Trinky?
The Neo Trinky. And I think I did another preview of the Feather RP2040 because we were about to ship. So lots of good stuff happening on Desk LADYADA. Basically, it's a hole into my mind. It's like, what am I working on?
Yeah.
Watch the show.
And then,
Where in the world is that part I need? The Great Search with DigiKey.
we do the Great Search for DigiKey, where LADYADA uses all our powers for good and find stuff on DigiKey. So what did you...
I believe
this
it was the Wi-Fi antennas, right?
Yeah.
This week, yeah. So we showed a Wi-Fi antenna that I was designing for the ESP32 S2 Cutie Pie. No, sorry, that was last week. Okay, what day
No, it
is
was the
it?
antenna that we did.
Forget what I said. Sorry.
We were doing...
It was a SAMD21.
We were doing SAMDs.
It was a
Right.
SAMD21 E18. So people who want to use SAMD, it's been a month. For people who want to use a
I was
SAMD.
like, well, I also named the file Ant, so I thought it was an
Yeah.
antenna too.
No, because we have the antenna. Okay,
Yeah.
so yes, hi. For people who want to include a SAMD21 into their boards, I show you how to spec the different kinds of SAMD21s. I sometimes use the G18, sometimes the E18, but I've also seen people use the J19 you can use, or even the E15. What do all these numbers and letters mean? I take you through how to decode the part number, the differences you're going to find between them, and why you might end up picking an industrial temperature instead of commercial temperature if the parts are in stock. Also my favorite package of all time, QFN.
All right, and if you want to learn about antennas, that was a week before.
Sorry about that. Yes, week before we did antennas.
And we also have Pro Ant.
We have antennas today too.
This
I
is
know.
the theme. Tonight's
It's
theme
all
is
ants.
antennas.
I mean, they're ants. They get into everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. GP's product pick of the week is every Tuesday, and on this Tuesday, here is a 1-minute snippet. Show up next week, same time, same place, on Tuesdays, and you can get a live stream from a product page and a discount just for that time.
It's the TSL 2591. It is a high dynamic range light sensor, and I've got it plugged in over the STEMMA QT cable to this Metro ESP32. What I'm showing is the total lux. If I take a pretty powerful flashlight and point this at the light, I'm going to jump up to around 300, 400 lux. Okay, what's the difference between this flashlight and, let's say, the sun? So I've positioned a little hand mirror outside, and you can see my hand here kind of blowing out. I'm going to take the meter and lift that up and put that in the sun. And you can see now we're at around 30,000 lux. That's my product pick. It's the TSL 2591 HDR, high dynamic range light sensor.
Okay, and on Thursday is JP's workshop, so you'll be able to see that then. Let's do some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Yeah, so
Beep, 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 beep.
yeah, so we haven't been really doing discounts, but we do have like the live shows where we do discounts.
And this is live.
And then this is live. There's not a discount right now, but
But
there is availability of the Feather
RP 2040.
RP 2040 right now, the second.
Yes.
So
I totally didn't forget to do it right before the show. I meant to wait until now to do it.
Yeah.
But check it out. I put in a max of, it's under the what's new. Or you can do RP 2040.
Yeah.
There you go. It's in stock. Max for customer 2. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's in there.
So let me
You want to quick screen share?
Yeah. So it's here.
There you
Let's
go.
see it.
Yeah.
It's in stock.
In stock.
You can get it now.
You can get it now.
And
I made max 2 per customer because I want to make sure that I don't know anyone who would want, more than 100, but
yeah, we didn't want to have someone
make
buy
sure
them all
enough
up.
for everybody.
Okay, so that's in the store just right now. That's our breaking news.
Beep
We
beep
can
beep
say
beep beep
everything
beep beep
about
beep
it.
beep beep beep. Okay. For those in the know.
Okay, let's continue to go on.
Okay.
So let's do some time travel. Time travel. Things that are going on right now in the world of Adafruit and more. We got 2 things. Just one is a reminder. AdaBox going to be shipping in April. AdaBox April.
Yep.
So we have a few slots open, but go to adabox.com right now. Sign up.
We will run out. I guarantee we will run out
Yeah.
of slots. So sign up if you want it.
And then jobs this week. Another one just got posted. This is a physical role in New York or California, so New York City or Bay Area. A
There's
lead
like 2
instructor,
jobs.
lead instructor for on-site program and instructor for on-site program. So each place, Blue Stamp Engineering. Check them out, and then also check out the jobs on jobs.adafruit.com if you want a job or if you have your skills that you want to post up. It's a good way to do it too. All right, so that was our breaking news that we had.
Yeah.
What I thought I would do is just let folks know in the chat who are just getting this now. I will put the URL. So yeah, these are going to go really fast.
Well, we
And,
did a very small run to start because we always do a small run to kind of get the manufacturing going, get our yield, test procedures. Folks who do electronics know it's like your first run is when you want to debug things, find out what goes wrong. So we're going to do more. Don't worry. We have parts to make many thousands. It's just we don't have those in stock right now. If we run out, because you're not watching this live right now or whatever, sign up. And I promise you, we have a lot of parts. We are going to make a lot. We will have enough for everybody.
but get them now.
But if you could get them now, I would get them now.
Yeah, and so this may be one of the things that we're going to do is we recover and then we bring back maybe discount codes for some of the live shows and more. But what we can do right now is there's scarcity and exclusivity because you're watching this live show. And thank you, community. So we want to do that.
I want to give people who watch the show. There is sometimes you get things, right? There's little benefits, and especially when there is a high desirability item, and it turns out the timing is good. I put it in right before the show, or in the middle of the show on purpose.
Thanks, folks. We'll keep trying to do fun stuff like this. So there you
Get
go.
your yoinky hands.
Yeah. Next up, let's do some Python on hardware news.
Okay. Speaking of.
Okay, big
Okay.
news. 70 single board computers now support CircuitPython.
That's right.
If you want to check out
Many
Tom's
pies.
Hardware, Scott,
did
lead
it,
developer on CircuitPython, he was on Tom's Hardware. And then they did a separate story about Scott being on there, and they're like, hey, CircuitPython might just run on a Raspberry Pi. So
yeah,
they
he did leak his idea, which is he wants CircuitPython to
Yeah.
run raw on the
because we have
Broadcom chip.
Yeah, we have Blinka, which is basically libraries.
Linux, yeah.
And it's CircuitPython for Linux. And then being able to treat a Raspberry Pi as a microcontroller is an interesting idea.
Well, the Pi 400 would be an amazing, little tote, a CircuitPython board. I get it. I see why it's a fun idea. But check it out. I think it was a really good roundtable. I listened in. They talked about CircuitPython, about Blinka, RP2040, about what's coming next, right? A lot of people are, I think there is a lot of excitement for this year. I think, like you said, people are they want to have stuff happen. They're ready to do stuff again. I think the whole world has that feeling right now, and so it was a really cool, positive video chat.
Yeah. So 70 single-board computers now support CircuitPython. That was our big news. Blinken brings CircuitPython APIs, CircuitPython libraries to single-board computers. Another milestone, 2,000 people in our CircuitPython subreddit. Thanks
Yep.
everybody who's there. We try to cover like greater Python news.
Yeah, I mean, like Blinka, it runs on CPython, so
Yeah.
I'm always interested in what's going on with Python in general, and it's interesting. It's like what does I have my own opinions about Python, but I want to hear about what other people think. So
So
that's why it's in
some
these
survey results came in from 2020. 85% main language for secondary language. Why do they like it? Simple syntax, easy to learn, syntactic sugar. Python experience, 28% of folks have been using it for 3 to 5 years. So anyways, check it out. That's from the Python Foundation and JetBrains. Raspberry Pi turned 9. Yeah, and actually Engadget just turned 17.
Wow,
I was second author at Engadget
Oh my God.
17 years ago.
it can drive.
Yeah.
Isn't Gadget still around?
Engadget, yeah.
Okay.
Engadget is around. I was doing writing at Popular Science, I think.
Oh, they're still around.
I think I was senior editor at Popular Science, and Pete Rojas was visiting Microsoft. I was there in an event, and the site wasn't even really released yet. And he was going through some names, and he was asking me what I thought about Engadget. I'm like, oh, that's a good name. He had left Gizmodo, or was leaving Gizmodo back during the blog wars.
Yeah. I lost my grandmother to the blog wars.
It was Nick Denton versus Jason Calcanis. So
Wow, you
and
can no matter who dies, you win, right?
so anyways, that was 17 years ago.
Yeah.
For Engadget, and then Hackaday I started when I was doing stuff with Engadget.
That's like it's 14 years now. How is that?
That is
15?
a 16-year-old because it was pretty fast.
Oh man, yeah.
And
It's still around. It's going strong.
yeah, and then other anniversaries. Raspberry Pi 9 years ago totally transformed the way we were doing a company in electronics and more.
No, we got into it. I jumped on it real fast. I'm like, this is cool.
There was a lot of scarcity for the Raspberry Pi when it came out, so we decided to do something completely different. Instead of trying to hoard them and try to sell them and disappoint people, we just had it so if you order $300 or more on our site, you get a Raspberry Pi. So that was unique and weird and interesting, and a lot of people did it.
Yeah.
So it was good. Worked out. So happy birthday, Raspberry Pi. We were thinking about talking about like the Chumby at the time, and that was
we
the
did
first.
the Chumby.
Yeah, that was like the
and
first.
the BeagleBone.
That was the first like Linuxy thing that we were like, okay, this is where it's going, and then Raspberry Pi kind of
You can
solidified
still
that.
see my Learn Guide on the Chumby. I was like, okay, here's how to connect an accelerometer to the I2C port. I mean, it was pre-Blinka, but it was like the idea was still there. It was like, how can we, how can we use Linux sort of like an Arduino, like a microcontroller, right? And I think it's a powerful idea. It's actually interesting. So here, like, I'm going to give people a story. So there was, an open hardware / Arduino summit, and it was like around 9 years ago. Because remember, like, the Raspberry Pi had just come out. And I remember that folks were sitting around and were like, what's the future of Arduino? And I remember, it wasn't me, but somebody said Raspberry Pi. Like, the idea of a Linux computer being able to do all the things that an Arduino can do is the future. And I think we actually turned out to be, it is the future, but it's shared, right? I mean, Arduino is now, it's from like 15 years ago. But I think it's great for people. Some folks use Arduino, some people use Raspberry Pi. It's good to have, multiple options. And especially now with CircuitPython, I'm trying to combine the two. But you can see my Linux Australia conference talk 2021, and I go through all this in about 45 minutes.
Okay. Other stuff. Don't forget tomorrow Scott is doing his deep dive, CircuitPython.
All about Tamil.
News around the web. JP stream is tomorrow, but you can see some of the things that he's been working on, specifically CircuitPython stuff.
Ooh, Cascade, those videos got posted. Check them out.
Yeah, Deborah had some of her works and more using CircuitPython and PyCascade's presentation. Sony is doing a webinar on April 8th.
They bumped it a month.
How to program a microcontroller using CircuitPython, and you can check out all the things that Sony's up to. It's kind of cool. Sony's adopted CircuitPython for their Sony's Presence board. You can lots of stuff going on in the world of MicroPython and CircuitPython with
Pico
Pico
projects.
So this is a galloping horse animation on the Pico using CircuitPython. This is a QT Py USB media knob and rotary encoder that's using CircuitPython.
Filming guy streaming. He's doing streams. Check him out.
Yeah, that was a cool library pull request and development of the LoRa radio project stuff that's going on. And you
This
can check
project was
out-
cool. So this BTC thing. So I found this. So there's a person on Etsy selling Matrix Portal, like Ada boxes, basically kitted up with like Bitcoin or whatever, like Wall Street bets, a meme stock on it. I just thought that was cool. That's like neat. There, and they even say like you can configure this really easily. It plugs in and you change a disk, like a file on the disk to change what, whether you want Ethereum or you want Dogecoin or you want what stock ticker number you want. And I thought it was neat to see like Etsy, right, this crafting making site selling completed Circuit Python projects. I don't know. I thought it was cool. It's like it's that easy to use.
So there's lots of bad things about this pandemic. There is.
Really?
And there's lots of bad things about
Okay.
it. And one of the bad things about it is some of the things that you used to do, you don't get to do anymore. So if I were to write an article about Circuit Python or Python on hardware, just like I used to back in the day of other things, and right now there's Adafruit Razor Focus.
No, we can't do anything
so
else.
you can't write some of the articles about this thing that's been happening in the world of electronics. I think right now your choice is either do it or write about it. You can't do both, at least not for me. So one of the things I would talk about is this was one of my tests a long time ago on how I would talk about electronics.
Yeah.
So back in the day when I was at Make, one of the things I used to say, and this was when Make and Etsy were the same size and we were in
No, they're in the same building.
We're in the same building together. And I said once the once the makers are using electronics from the maker world in their Etsy store sales to power things that they're just selling, they're not selling electronics and how to write code. They're selling animatronic things or signs or something that is, it's more considered a handcraft that's not in electronics. Etsy wasn't an electronics marketplace. Although I did try to do make.etsy.com, other side story. But one of the bits of success is if you're making a technology that allows artists to put electronics into something, that's when you did a good job. So Arduino had some of that success. And now, as we bring Python to hardware, you're seeing that now. If someone's using your, in this case, Circuit Python, idea of just plug it in, it shows up as a drive, and that's where you configure stuff. And you don't even need to know how to code, but it's powerful enough where it could just be used like that. You did a good job. So I thought that was neat. And that would be an article I would write. Python is coming to the craft world and coming to the world where you need to power it with electronics, but what is the programming language that you would ever use? How would you do this?
Yeah.
So anyways, it's cool.
Turns out Matrix Portals.
That's how you know.
That's cool.
That's how you know it worked out.
All right. Also got some plotting libs. Thanks for the contribution. Get Circuit Python, MicroPython plotting. This is interesting. Embed did a questionnaire, and it's very Embed focused, but it did have some interesting stuff because it divided up, academic, hobbyist, and professional, and asked it shows some of the differences. I thought there was some interesting stuff, even for folks who are not using Embed within the Embed ecosystem, where they're using microcontrollers. Very interesting stuff. So check out the developer survey. And they had a lot of responses too, which is a big community.
You can check out some of the new hardware. This is a Pimeroni Tiny 2040 board.
Well, Circuit Python.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, got a lot of RP24. So we're going to see a couple months of this as folks get so many Pico
but
boards.
this is another thing too. It's like if you're going to have a product like Kibo with a Pico, what's the easiest thing to use? And happens to be CircuitPython.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. All right, so we've
More
got some
projects.
MagTech stuff. This is neat. LCARs for e-ink. You can check out our AR app, full color POV display with a Pi Pico and .star LED tape, and then Twitch stream playing around with new hardware and CircuitPython, a MIDI interface, and a Citron Maker Pi Pico.
It's got everything built into it.
Says everything.
Okay.
And we have some coming soon we're going to be talking about soon on our show.
And
Some
guides
more
and
projects,
updates.
302 libraries. And with that is your Python hardware news this week. Okay, Lady, we have 2,028 guides. That's how we prove
I
that we're an
know.
open source
So
company.
much open source hardware. Let's talk about the guides. So we're mixing it up a little bit. I have to actually change the text at the top because it's not just new guides, it's new and updated guides. But I like to talk about the updated
Yeah.
guides. We updated the Raspberry Pi Pico getting started guide. Just before the show, I think we probably added links to the new PIO Learn guide that I'll talk about in a second. The shadow box with internet clock with NeoPixel visualizations. We talked about that. We also have a little video we'll show shortly. That's from Erin. She used a MagTag as a Wi-Fi clock, which is great on its own, and then it controls NeoPixels to make the display match the outside colors and sunrise and sunset and nighttime effect. So it's kind of like a little window into the outside. Part of this project, so we have these gas sensors, and I was reading an article in the New York Times about folks who have reduced sense of smell because they've got COVID, and sometimes it takes a while for it to recover. And somebody who that was being interviewed said they're scared of drinking milk because they can't tell if the milk has gone bad. And I said, we can solve this with science. So Carter actually even shows a scientific experiment he went through using a clue and one of our gas sensors, and you can really easily detect when milk has gone sour. And so you can make it's a good science project for kids, but also if you want to, you have maybe congenital anosmia, or you just want maybe something in your fridge to tell you when your milk has gone bad so you don't have to smell it, you can build your own milk freshness checker. And it's got this cute cow that tells you whether your milk is good to drink or a little suspicious or definitely no good. Jeff Epler also wrote a guide about using PIO, that's the state machine system in CircuitPython. So you can do like the really quick iteration. We wrote an assembler in Python so you don't have to recompile your PIO code. You can like write the code in CircuitPython, save it, and it runs immediately. So if you're interested in learning PIO, this actually might be a really fast way to get started because you don't have to worry about your tool chain. And then JP did this like epic project. Really was so far one of my favorite guides of the year. Making your very own circuit board, your first circuit board using fritzing. It's okay if you've never done a circuit board before. Even tells you how to send out the boards to OshPark or JLC PCB to get them back and build your own custom macro keypad. You can customize it again however you want, add potentiometers, add LEDs, buttons, sensors, whatever. But a great project. I know people love making their own macro keypads. It's a great starter project, and the Pico makes it really easy to solder it right on. Then we have a couple other updated guides. Display guide got updated with we have some new text updates and some more debugging info for Raspberry Pi Zero headless quick start guide. Get people who have confused Pi Zeros back up and running.
Okay, and then I'm going to play the little Shadowbox video.
Yes.
Make a custom shadow box with animated NeoPixel lights and an Adafruit MagTag. The Wi-Fi enabled MagTag animates the pixels in a slowly shifting color palette that sets off your artwork. We've taken this project a step further with a Wi-Fi data feed that changes the color palette based on the time of day. Each day, at sunset and sunrise, the colors will slowly shift through glorious purples and oranges before blending to a starry sky at night or a sunny day in the morning. We'll show you how to take your favorite photographs and transform them into a vector image that can be cut on a vinyl cutter. Customize the size to fit your Shadowbox frame and plug your NeoPixel strip into your MagTag. Cut out your design on a vinyl cutter, then stack the layers to create the Shadowbox effect. See the full build tutorial with sample code and sample files on the Adafruit Learning System. The link is in the comments. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more fun Adafruit projects.
And next up, some main New York City factory footage.
Well, guess what we made this week?
And there's a tester.
Is RTC tester.
SPI flash.
It's like more PCBs. This is our original, before we did STEM at QT, this was actually what STEM was going to look like. This was our first idea for like a plug and play board, and we thought like, oh, maybe we'd have alligator clips on it. Lots of iteration here at Adafruit.
And it would be made in New York City factory footage without a sunset. Here's New York.
It's like a shadow box, but real.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I like nice night lighting.
And they're still building the Disney building across the street from Adafruit.
Checking away. They're going to find Vision's body somewhere down there.
Look at them go.
Go, 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 go.
All right. So we got some 3D printing this week. We have one video, one speed up.
Yep.
So take it away. Yeah, Pedro. Okay, and 3D Hangouts is every single week at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can learn how to make all this stuff and more with Noah Pedro.
That's right.
All right, LADYADA, let's do this. DigiKey and Adafruit present... All right, this week's INMPI is from ProAnt.
ProAnt. Ooh, Pro Antennas from ProAnt. This is the first time we featured them. And they have this antenna that I saw on digikey.com/new, which I always recommend everybody check out. There's a couple new sensors that just popped in today. This is the, I'll get the part number totally correct. It is the Pro OB607 onboard SMD 2400 stamped antenna. It looks like this, a big chunk of stamped metal. There's also an eval board that comes with it. It's kind of just like the antenna with an SMA connector on the back, so you can use it to evaluate this antenna. It has a couple capacitors as well. You're wondering, hey, ProAnt, that sounds like familiar, right? Like where have I heard that? Where have I heard that? No, it's not the name of the professional ant farmer association. It's a technology that's also licensed and on the back of the Raspberry Pi, right? So you see here on the back of this Pi Zero, it says uses the antenna technology license from ProAnt. And if we go across on the other side, you're like, well, I don't see that metal antenna. That's because the antenna that they license is actually like a PCB design, and it's like this thing, this like line with the ground plane, and then this like kind of cool triangular shape. with a couple passive components, like a very inexpensive antenna, and it works really well. I mean, we've actually seen this on a couple of Raspberry Pi products. So this is cool to see, like they're like doing really cutting edge antenna technology. So, they not only do they have the stamped antenna, but if you are doing a PCB and you're doing a lot of them, and you want a very low cost antenna that, I think is probably smaller and gives you better results than an inverted F. Although I don't know for sure. I didn't look at the licensing documentation, but I assume it must be better because otherwise they wouldn't be using it. Check out ProAnt for licensing antenna technology. So you're also wondering, kind of this like bent wire antenna thing. Where have I seen that before? You probably saw it on the back of the Pi Portal Pint because we use U-Blocks modules. And hey, look at that. It's a ProAnt antenna. Might be the same model, might be a slightly different one, but it's this kind of 3D antenna. It pops up and above the PCB. You can also see this antenna style used here. Oh, look, it's another ProAnt antenna. This is on the Pico ESP32. It's a dev board that we stock as well. And then what's this? Oh, look, Espressif uses it on their PCBs as well for their Pico board. So I've seen this bent metal antenna, and I've kind of been like, what's the deal here? And so when I saw it come up on INMPI, I was like, this is cool. I'm going to pick some up because I'm always working on Wi-Fi or Bluetooth 2.4 gigahertz stuff. And what's the cool thing about this antenna? Well, the cool thing about this antenna is it's got really great gain. It's really inexpensive. It's, cents. It's definitely going to be less than like 30 cents or so. It comes on a tape and reel. It's really easy to pick and place. It's fully metal, so it's going to reflow quite nicely. It's got really nice circular emission. It's off of the PCB, so you're going to get more 3D gain across the entire sphere of emission. The gain is a max 4.9 dBi. The data sheet has more graphs, and it has less than. It has. Ooh, do you mind making it a little larger? Because
Oh yeah.
Sorry, the text is so small. It has better than 65% efficiency, which is really great, and less than a negative about 7 dB return loss. So if you compare that with your, inverted F antenna, you're going to get definitely more gain. Here even the max gain is going to be 3.3 dBi, and the reflection is negative 15 dB instead of negative 7. So, yes, nothing is going to beat for price a printed PCB antenna. But hey, you can do better than that. Get this, 3D stamped antenna. Pick and place it on your design. They're not very big. And, I will say that when I see a lot of people using these antennas, I know there must be something good going on. So, I know a lot of folks use ceramic antennas or 3D antennas, and sometimes your space requirements dictate that. But if you have a little bit of space, and the height doesn't bother you, especially if you have a tin can, so that maybe the height would be equal to the antenna height. Check out these antennas. They seem to have really good performance, and I'm looking forward to designing one of these antennas into my next Wi-Fi or Bluetooth design. There is there's a couple different versions. I'll say this one is this big. This is in millimeters. It's got a couple of solder points. I like that it has multiple solder points, so it's nice and stable against the PCB. But it looks like they've designed a couple different types of these stamped, 3D antennas. Like I said, they're pretty cheap. You buy them by the reel. This particular part is Pro OB607, but the entire ProAnt, they have many boards in the series, or many antennas in the series. Bigger sizes, you're going to get more gain, maybe less return loss. So, you figure out how big your antenna can be and check out these antennas. They seem to be quite the pros at antennas. That's why they're called ProAnt.
Yeah, and you can get this over on DigiKey, digikey.com/URL 4FDZ8M42. And then for the product number, 1532 Pro OB607, and then there's a couple variations like Omar said.
Yeah.
We also have video.
That's right.
Okay.
They have look. Go subscribe to the ProAnt YouTube channel. They only have like a couple dozen subscribers. You could be first to comment on their videos when they do more videos. So check out this video from ProAnt.
Today I want to introduce you to a demonstrator for the new Recom.
Oops, sorry. I think I gave you the wrong link.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I apologize.
Ending in here.
I apologize. That was last week's video. Exciting. I will. I'll send you the video in a bit, and we'll.
Yeah. Well, when we add it to the, what we'll do is we'll stop this here, and we'll for this segment.
Yes.
And then on the page that people are going to see this all the time, that's when we'll have that video in.
Or they can just go to the YouTube, youtube.com, search for ProAnt, and check out the video. It's the video they have on their page.
All right.
All right. Thanks,
And
everybody.
that's Eye on MPI. Good catch. Okie dokie. Thank you, NWK.
All right. Thank you for
that.
posting the video.
Yeah.
It's a lovely 1 minute video of
All
their
right,
antennas.
let's kick it off. Let's go to new products.
New.
All right.
Okay. In stock now. We had it in the shop, but now it's actually available to purchase. We have the Raspberry Pi Compute I/O board for the Raspberry Pi 4 compute modules. We have some compute modules, not the Wi-Fi ones in stock. I think we have like the 2 gigabyte MMC, no Wi-Fi, basic ones. This I/O board has everything: real-time clocks, breakouts, multiple USB ports, Ethernet, 2 HDMI. It's got like 3 camera connectors or something. It's got multiple display connectors. It's got a PCIe slot. I mean, like, it's got everything. DC power jack. So if you're designing something with the compute module 4 from Raspberry Pi, and you don't know what you need, use this design. Figure out the minimal hardware that you need for your final product, and then pair everything else away. And you can basically use this as your development board for the compute module, which plugs right in. Let me grab my compute module, and I can even show it off on the overhead. Okay, so this is the compute module plugged in. So it's got these nice little sockets, so you can plug it in right here. PCIe, power supply, fan controller, DC, I think this is probably up to 12 volts input, micro SD card, 2 USB, Ethernet, 2 HDMI, real-time clock, standard Raspberry Pi hat 2x20, 2 camera ports, 2 display ports, and then I think this is, the configuration jumper. So, yeah, especially the PCIe, that's kind of cool. I didn't even know that was available. So, I don't know, plug in whatever card you want under PCIe there.
Okay.
All right, so check it out. And it doesn't come with a compute module, but we stock the compute modules. You plug them together. Next up, we have from WeAct. These are called like black pills because they're kind of like an upgrade of the blue pills. This is an STM32F411 chip. I think it has 512K of flash and then 128K of RAM. There's also a spot on the bottom for a QSPI flash, should you want to solder one in. This has support in Arduino through STM32 Arduino. There's some MicroPython port I found for it. It's linked in the product. And we also have CircuitPython support for it. It's got a couple buttons on it. Bootloader button, reset button, user button, LED. It's kind of minimal, but it does have a lot of GPIO, and it's a nice, powerful chip. So if you want to get going with STM32, especially in CircuitPython or MicroPython, where you really want like a Cortex M4, you want like a good amount of memory, this board will give you a lot of GPIO, the power stuff, USB-C, and you can kind of get going. So we don't make this, it's by WeAct, but if you look online for Black Pill, STM32F411, you can see lots of tutorials and projects people build with this board.
Okay, next up.
Next up, it's this mini PIR sensor, which I can also show on the overhead. So we have large PIR sensors that have wires on them. This is a little cute PIR sensor. What's so good about it? Well, it plugs into a breadboard. It's kind of tiny, and it's really simple. You just give it 3 to 12 volts on the power pin, ground pin, and then the output just toggles high for 2 seconds whenever somebody walks by. It has about 3 to 5 meter distance, but it can work much closer as well. You wave your hand in front of it, or a person walks by and it detects motion. So these are often used for, automatic light turning on systems in bathrooms, or, motion detectors or intruder detectors. But a lot of people want projects where when a human walks by, or maybe a large animal, it's detected. So this PIR sensor will do the job. So let me zoom in. Oh, focus, look. Okay, so you see there's a regulator here. These are these 3 pins. You can see there's very small text. It's a negative sign for ground, O for output, VCC positive. And then there's this little lens over the actual PIR element and a regulator on the back. So yeah, you just give it 3 or 12 volts, and it's just, you plug into a breadboard. It's very easy to use. You will have to have the pin read by a microcontroller. I tried connecting it up to like some PIRs, they can drive like a relay or like an LED, but this output pin isn't very strong. So you'd want to read it from a microcontroller and then have that microcontroller or a transistor and then have that actually power a more high-powered output.
Okie dokie. Next up, we got a bunch of wires.
Yes, we've got pigtails. These are JST XH pigtails. Let's talk about them all at once. We've got 2 pair pigtails. We've got 3 pair. We got 3 wires. And guess what comes after 3? We've got 4 pair. And we've got 5 pair. And last but not least, 6 pair. So, you want some nice chunky wires. These are really easy to plug and unplug. You get 2 halves, right? You get the socket and the plug with various pins. We also have these in like JST JST PH, and we also have these in Pico Blade, which are very small. These are a little chunkier. They use 26 gauge wire. The connector itself can carry about 3 amps. It's a nice chunky connector, so good when you need a little bit more power, or you want something that's less fiddly than the Pico Blades. I'll show it on the overhead real fast so you can see one example, but they're all pretty much the same thing. This one is the 3-pin, and there's a nice key here, so you can't plug it in backwards. Ooh, that's nice. It can only go in one way, and it has a nice little locking action. So it's solid against pulling, but then when you really want to, it's friction lock. Each connector half is 2.5 millimeter pitch. It's not quite 1 inch, 0.1 inch. It's like a little bit less, right? It's 2.5 millimeter, not 2.54. That said, you can pretty much fit this into something that has 0.1 inch pitch. Especially the 2, 3, and 4 pin. Once you get to 5 and 6, it's a little bit fiddlier, but because the tolerance does add up. But it's close to ish 0.1 inch, and so you can, if you really want to, plug this side into header. You can kind of get away with this, like this PIR sensor. It's like, well, it works just fine, even though technically it's a little bit different. So JST XH pigtails in multiple sizes. I love having these pigtails because I see people try to crimp their own connectors. And if you're really good at crimping, you can, of course, make any connector you could ever want. But if you're like me, you sometimes don't want to crimp. You just want the cable, and you solder the ends to whatever you want, and you're good to go.
Okay, and to start tonight, besides you, LADYADA, the community, our customers, our team, is what we were talking about before, is the Feather RP 2040.
Woohoo! If you're watching this live, you might even have some in stock. That's right, the Feather RP 2040. We got those chips in last week late, and then on Monday, we got the PCBs, and we ran them. We did a small run, and we'll be doing more. Okay, so let's stop here so I can point out all the things we got going on. So it is a feather. It's feather-shaped, 2 inches by 0.9 inches, USB-C connector. A lot of our newer feathers have USB-C. It's got the standard JST battery connector. It's got battery charging built in. There's 2 buttons. On the left, there's a reset button. On the very right, there's a boot select button. For those who've played with the RP 2040, you know that you have to press the boot select button while resetting or powering up to go into the UFT bootloader. So that's a great way to easily load code onto it. You don't need any special DFU utils or a special SWD programmer. But speaking of SWD programmer, there is an SWD header in the middle. It's not populated. Why? Because we wanted to keep this feather nice and slim. A lot of people like to kind of like make slim feather packages, and the SWD header would make it kind of extra tall. So we left it out. That said, we sell the connectors to like $1. You can buy them DigiKey, a couple cents. Solder on an SWD connector should you wish to connect this up to a debugger like your J-Link or whatnot, and use the debugger tools. Not a lot of people use the debugger, so again, it's an optional thing. There's an onboard NeoPixel that you can control. It's connected to one of the pins that isn't brought out. In CircuitPython, we use it to notify you about your program status, but use it for whatever you like. There's a crystal, and of course the RP2040 chip, right? This cool dual Cortex M0 runs about 125 megahertz. It's got 264K of RAM in it, which is wonderful. And because it has RAM but not flash, if you look on the very right-hand side, kind of between the chip and the boot select button, there is a QSPI flash chip. That's the execute in place flash. It's 8 megabytes. It's really chunky because it's going to be shared with your CircuitPython or MicroPython code, as well as the firmware running on the RP2040 itself. So for CircuitPython, at least, we take about a megabyte, and then you have 7 megabytes left for all the files and fonts and libraries and images and animations, audio, whatever you have. You stick it on that disk drive, so you have 7 megabytes left over, which is a good amount. If you're wondering why 8, you can watch last week's Desk of LadyAda, and I'll tell you the secret, which is it was a thing that worked. And then last but not least, there's a STEMMA QT connector, so you can quickly connect all sorts of sensors and devices, OLEDs and such, into the end. We even have a Grove adapter cable, so if you have Grove I2C sensors, plug those in as well. The idea is to make it super easy for people to get started with CircuitPython on the RP2040. And speaking of, I have some Feather projects I thought I would show off.
Yeah.
Maybe on the overhead. So starting with, let's see which demos work. It's always the joy. Okay, so this one.
And you decided, hey, I've got this Feather on a new chip. Why don't
Let's connect it to a Featherwing.
I see how it works?
Yeah.
Make sure everything still works.
Pretty much. That's how the sausage is made. So here I've got the RP2040, and here is the Feather M4 RGB Featherwing, right? So this is for RGB matrix displays. As seen on the Matrix portal, people love these. They're used in pixel purses. They come in all sorts of sizes, and it's a really easy way to add tons of LEDs to a project. And I just have it on a doubler, so these are just connected side by side, so you can see both of them. And then when I power this with 5 volts, this will power up, and then the matrix, I'm going to, this is connected to this matrix, which I'm going to move out of the way. Oh, goodness. I'm having a day. Oh, goodness. How do I get back? I'm like running Android on this thing. Nope, that didn't work. Shoot. You know the magic?
Well,
I do not know what I pressed. Thank you. Okay. Sorry. So this, hi, live demo. So the RGB Featherwing is connected up to this matrix and to running this little animation, which is taking icons from a bitmap and then like swirling them around in CircuitPython. It's just an easy demo to show quick animations of iconography and bitmaps on RGB Featherwing. So that just shows you can plug and play existing Featherwings onto your RP2040 Feather. The next demo I have, I got 2 demos going, is I took this RP2040 Feather. This time I'll be very careful not to press any buttons. So this is the RP2040 Feather here, and I plugged it into an Airlift Featherwing. So this adds an ESP32 as a Wi-Fi coprocessor. And then I plugged this into a TFT Featherwing. So again, it's all Featherwings all the way down. Powered this off of a battery, and then plugged in a temperature and humidity sensor. And then over here, I've got, it's connecting over Wi-Fi and sending the data to Adafruit IO. So this was a, hold on, let me get real close. So connecting to Adafruit IO and then sending the data over Wi-Fi through the requests library through HTTPS securely to Adafruit IO for data logging. So again, it's all kind of plug and play. You plug in the Wi-Fi Featherwing on the top. It uses the standard ESP32 SPI library we wrote for CircuitPython. Plug into a TFT Featherwing, so now you've got your console with a cute little Blinka in the corner. displaying so you can easily see what your CircuitPython board is doing. And then finally, plug and play sensors, and then run one of our 300 plus libraries to get that temperature and humidity data and send it online. And then you can see over here, I've got
So you
this
can do
phone.
IoT projects with the RP2040 right now.
That's right.
Just got to use CircuitPython.
So our CircuitPython works. So you can see the temperature and humidity. And if I breathe on this, you should see the humidity pop up and the temperature pop up. Assuming I didn't break it. There you go. So humidity from my breath, 2 or 3 seconds later gets uploaded to Adafruit.io, and so you can get like instant IoT projects with the RP2040 Feather using the existing Feather ecosystem, which is awesome. I put these demos together in only a few minutes before the show. Just by plugging in the existing parts we have and running the example code that we already have.
All right.
for
Well, we
our
only have
feathers.
40 left in stock, so they'll probably be gone shortly.
I know. Okay, so here's
Let's
my
see
demos.
All right. We're going to do a top secret, and then I got some questions lined up.
Okay. Let's see.
From the Adafruit Vault.
So I've got this cute little board that I designed. This is called the Neo Trinky, and this is a SAMD21, and it's on like a little USB stick with 4 NeoPixel LEDs and then 2 capacitive touchpads on the end here. I was really inspired by like the FOMU and the TOMU and the other USB plug-in FPGA boards. So you can see like this button makes it brighter, and then this button changes the color with the capacitive touch on the end. So like trying to make the lowest cost little CircuitPython compatible board using the SAMD21, which doesn't require a lot of parts. So it's like very simple and small, and it even has a little keychain hole, so you can like put on your keychain, like CircuitPython anywhere you go.
Okay. And that's the top secret. So
It's a secret.
we're going to go right to questions.
Yes.
Some folks posted them up. I'm going to get to those Discord and the ones that were in other places I can see. We do that over on Discord, adafruit.it/Discord. Here is your URL if you need it.
Okay.
Okay, so questions that are lined up. First up, the feather footprint in the Adafruit Eagle library is very useful. Could we get those for the Cutie Pie, Trinket, Itsy Bitsy, etc.?
That's a good idea. I don't have one, but I know you can definitely use fritzing because I made sure that the fritzing objects were PCB friendly. So if you want to make a quick PCB with those parts, check out fritzing.
Okay. Next up, how do you... speaking of vision, have you seen any Adafruit hardware in WandaVision yet? So probably they had some...
They probably do, but we don't know.
Yeah, so they have some electronics in the back that other film productions. It's all like, when you see like NeoPixely like things, or if you make them for a
Yeah.
living, you kind of can spot some of the stuff, and then later on people will take photos of close-ups, especially when the on-demands that they can pause and go to specific areas. Like our stuff is in the Mandalorian, which
we didn't find out till afterwards when they did here's like the behind the scenes.
which is part of this entire experience streaming
Yeah,
app. So I'm sure there's some.
we're
there.
in the app.
Sure, there's some in there.
Yeah.
How do you use the extra 2 megabytes of RAM on the Cutie Pie on the back if you're using Arduino? Is it manual? Is there a setting in the IDE?
You have to do it manually. Like it doesn't show up automatically, but we have the SPI Flash library, which allows you to read and write to it. And then if you're on the Cutie Pie, you can use TD USB and have it show up as a disk drive. So like you can, I've definitely used the SPI Flash on SAMD21 boards in Arduino to store files. And to store images, especially, so I can do like an image slideshow, and the images are living on the SPI Flash. But you have to code it. It's Arduino, so it has to be coded.
Next up, with the mini PIR, do you know what the maximum milliamps it can provide?
Not a lot. Again, it's the signal output is like I connected up to an LED and it was not super happy. It could light it up, but I'd say maybe 1 or 2 milliamp output.
Okay, what is 1-bit ADC?
A 1-bit ADC is well, it could be like a PWM comparator. I mean, like I don't know what in particular you're talking about, but there are. If you look at how PDM microphones work, for example, they are a 1-bit output that encodes a digital input, but you have to heavily filter it. And PDM is the encoding method, and you can look at like white papers about how PDM microphones are made, and it's actually kind of interesting. Like you charge up a capacitor until the comparator with the analog input like toggles, and then it switches the output to high or low. And like if you do that at like a megahertz or so, you can kind of get this like pulse width modulation-ish output that encodes the analog input. Is it better than like successive approximation? I mean, there's pros and cons. 1-bit ADCs are cheap. That's why they're in PDM mics. And they're very simple to implement. They're one of the simplest ones. You don't need any extra circuitry, really. It's like a very basic way of encoding analog input.
Okay, next question. How many of the CircuitPython libraries will need tweaking to native code for the RP
None.
2040?
I mean, well, like two. Sorry, I lied. So NeoPixel's already been ported. NeoPixel's already been the underlying NeoPixel write is already been ported over to the RP 2040, and I think Pulse In had to be implemented natively, but I think only like the DHT library and maybe infrared LED stuff are the only two things that aren't currently working. I2C is we're still poking at some bugs in it, but that works. SPI works as you saw. Like I had TFT display and ESP module all running on SPI, and OneWire works because I tried OneWire. So yeah, but pretty much everything should just work. If it doesn't, open up an issue.
Okay.
But I think we got like almost everything. Capacitive touch works. We got that going.
How many RP 2040s did we have right when we dropped in stock?
I think we
It
put
was
about
over 100.
a little bit more than 100.
Yeah, we have about 26 now,
Okay.
or less. Next,
It will sell out before the end of the night.
Some
So
kudos for CircuitPython. CircuitPython let me test my board. I designed in literally 5 minutes to see what was wrong with it. I noticed that the CP2104 is flagged as not recommended for new designs. If I recall correctly, is part of some feather boards. Maybe I'm just late to the party. Curious if you already adopted a replacement.
no, I mean this is the CP2102 I think is the replacement, but you'd be surprised just because something is not recommended for new designs. You can still get it for many years, so I'm not too worried about it. We do use it in a couple designs. Look, when it's completely gone, I will respin the boards and goody for us. But I found that it's good to know about things that are being updated, but not to stress out about them too quickly. You'd be surprised how long that they're available in the market for.
Okay. What project scenarios would you recommend, like the Feather 2040 versus an M4 and M0?
Well, it's inexpensive, so that's really nice. If you want to use this PIO stuff, that's really cool. I mean, it's got basically the price of an M0, but close to the power of an M4, right? So it's nice in the middle. That said, there's a couple of things it doesn't have. It doesn't have a DAC, right? So if you really want something with a DAC, you're missing it. If you need something that has heavy floating point support, it's still an M0. It's not an M4. It doesn't have a floating point unit. So, there are some things that it's definitely not going to be. It's going to be, I think, in many ways better than just a plain M0, but there's still a lot of reasons why you might want an M4 or like an ESP32S2 or an NRF52840 for wireless.
Okay. Any plans to bump the flash to 8 megabytes on the Cutie Pie, like you did for the Feather?
We're gonna look if I can fit a larger flash chip because it's a physically larger chip, but I'm gonna try to do a revision.
Okay, someone want to know what NeoPixels were used for in The Mandalorian. We posted up. It's 8 different NeoPixels. It was used to power the Razor Crest.
Yeah,
And
the thing that goes whoosh.
Yeah, and thanks for
Makes
posting
it
that in
go.
the chat. Got 22 of these left. Yeah, we do. The Feather RP 2040 on GitHub has a Rev B. Were the changes anything critical?
We posted Ref C. You can compare the schematics. Take a look at them. We moved a couple pins around. Nothing a big deal. But if you're one of the people who decided to make a Ref B, you're really on your own. It was not published for people to make and expect support. We do not support the Rev B. We're only supporting the Rev C.
Okay. Are there PCB files for the ESP32S2 Mini based on the TFT Feather available or on?
It's not finished because it's not finished. I haven't been able to get the modules, so I will release the PCB files when the hardware is released. We usually do it like within the next few couple days. Reason being, I still have to. I have to get the final modules right. I only have engineering samples, and I don't want to release something that I don't know will work with the final modules.
Okay. Next up, are the feathers generally pin compatible?
Yes, they tend to be. There's a few exceptions, like the ESP8266 feather is very limited, but almost all feathers are very similar in compatibility. I stick the peripheral pins in the same place and the analog pins in the same place.
Okay. Can you update ESP32 to work as the UF2?
No, the ESP32 does not have native USB.
Okay. And we're down to 18.
Dude, well, when it's done, we have to end the show.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna
show you.
Okay, I think I got to all the questions in different chats.
Okay.
That's it. Let me make sure. Yes, we did.
Okay.
All right.
All right, sweet.
There was a question about the pricing hasn't been posted for the Picos by or the RP2040s by the Pi Foundation.
Correct.
yet.
We don't
Okay.
we don't know the price of the RP2040 chip is not public. We cannot divulge any information we may or may not have. No
Yeah,
comment.
I don't think they publicly posted the price list yet.
That's
so.
correct. It's not been
there you go.
published. We don't have any information. You might be able to sort of evoke what the price might be based on how we price our products and other people price their products. However, it's not public, and only the Pi Foundation can answer it. If you ask us, we will tell you to ask them.
Yeah, generally, until I see it on their website or
Yeah.
publicly, we've been able to work on this before it came out, and that worked out really well. No one leaked or no one did anything. So for price list, also like then you get into like volumes and resellers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So since from what I can tell, because Pimeroni has a board, Adafruit has a board, SparkFun has a board, Arduino has a board. Their plan is to have a lot of people make boards with this.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be published any moment.
Couple months.
Yeah.
Couple
Okay.
weeks, couple months.
Next up. Yeah. Also, I think, Scarissa, I think when you, if you need chips, I think they have been sending out samples to folks.
Yes, but here's a hint: be nice.
Yeah.
You will get more samples with honey than with vinegar.
So I think the Raspberry Pi folks in Evan were sending some samples out to folks. And yeah.
Nice folks.
Yeah. And then follow up. Keep an eye on DigiKey site for RP2040 pricing. Yeah, that's probably
Probably
where
they'll probably stock them like they do
Yeah.
other chips.
And we'll do one more. Best Adafruit board to get started with, I would say Circuit Playground Express.
Nothing beats a Circuit Playground Express, man. It's got so many projects. It's so
Yeah.
easy. Whether you've ever coded before or you're an expert, you can run free RTOS on it
Oh.
or make code.
I'll do two more. Is there an Arduino core yet? No, they did a blog post. It's on their website. They said they're working on it.
Again, we have no information.
But here's my guess.
Ask Arduino.
My guess is they have Arduino Day coming up at the end of March, so they're probably going to announce it then.
That'd be good.
It'll be. There is an updated IDE, but it doesn't have anything to do with
No,
this.
but maybe it's a preview, a hint.
Okay. How long does it take to average to spin up a board on the Pick and Place?
2 to 3 hours, I'd guess. It depends on the complexity of the board.
Okay. So I got to the last round of questions.
Sweet.
Cool. All right. Well, that's it for our questions.
All right, thank you, everybody. Woo, it's a jam-packed show. We
Yeah,
got through
special
everything.
thanks to, let me make sure, I find the folks that are here. I see Kelly is in our behind the scenes chat, but I also saw Jessie May earlier.
Hey,
so-
Jesse Man Kelly.
Anyways, either one of you, if you're here. Hi. Thank
Hi.
you. And
Stories.
special thanks to everyone in our chats.
Yes.
Folks
Community.
that are posting links and more.
People posting projects. People
And,
helping others.
Also, you probably have a little bit of time if you want to get one of these feathers.
You act now. Although, again, we will be making many. This is just our first run.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot for our first run. It's the right way to go, just in case something is amiss, because we want to get it through the entire testing cycle. We've learned a couple things also. And so we will be manufacturing more probably this week or next week. And so don't worry if you don't get one. Sign up, and believe me, we will get through all of them.
Yeah. All right, and with that, that is our show for tonight, everybody. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks for placing orders and more, and thanks for sharing and making code and doing show and tells and keeping this going for the last year together. We'll continue to go forward, share, and more.
Thanks, everybody.
That's our show. Here is Ramon Waziner.